bite-sized reading of the Bible. The New King James Version with the episodes presented each morning at 8:15 on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Your reader has been Barbara. Thank you for listening.
Hello, this is Linda Lover, and for the next half hour, I'll be reading from the March 16th issue of the Chautauqua Gazette on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. St. Patrick, top of the morning to you, and the rest of the day be yours. St. Patrick's Day is upon us. To celebrate, many will wear green, visit their local establishments, enjoy a few Irish libations, and don their Donegal caps. But it wouldn't be St. Patrick's Day without recognizing the great and magnanimous 5th century saint who inspired Ireland to embrace Christ. Believe it or not, St. Patrick wasn't born Irish. He was Welsh. As a young man, he was captured by Irish pirates and enslaved as a shepherd. During his captivity, he learned the Gaelic language and customs, and all the while he developed a deep relationship with God through prayer. After a daring escape, he eventually returned home to Wales. Yet something continued to tug at his heart. In prayer, St. Patrick felt God compel compelling him to return to Ireland to preach to the pagan people. He even had dreams of the Irish calling out to him, begging him to bring Christ to them. Patrick became a priest and was later ordained a bishop, hence the pointy hat, the mitre that we often see him wearing. His return to Ireland was both courageous and difficult, as he had to confront centuries-old pagan customs and Druid spirituality. Some pagan chieftains persecuted him and even attempted to kill him, but gotta find the next page. But none of this deterred his faith. Over the course of 60 years, with perseverance and prayer as his constant companions, St. Patrick boldly set out to convert much of the Emerald Isle. We're all familiar with the luck of finding a 4-leaf clover, but one of St. Patrick's most famous teaching tools was the 3-leaf clover, which he used to explain the Trinity, that God is one, yet 3 persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Patrick called the tribes and chieftains to turn away from idol worship and other pagan practices. Even the development of the Celtic cross reflects this mission. These stone crosses with a circle around the intersection incorporated symbols of the sun and moon, showing that the cross of Christ is greater than both. By placing the cross at the center of the circle, Patrick redirected people's attention to Christ. Another well-known legend is St. Patrick's banishment of the snakes. That story goes, the snakes were not merely pests, they were sacred to the Druids. Driving them into the sea symbolized the eradication of idol worship. Did it literally happen? Probably not, but the legend persists because it captures the spiritual impact of St. Patrick's mission. But who was St. Patrick really? Why did he do what he did? His own words in his confessions give us the answer. It is not I, but Christ the Lord, who ordered me to come to these people and to stay with them for the rest of my life. I have not lived a life as perfect as other believers, but I still trust in the Lord. He wasn't seeking fame or glory. His heart was moved by love for the people, and he served the Irish faithfully until his dying breath. We all know St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, but did you know he is also the patron saint of Nigeria? In the 1920s, Irish monks strengthened Christianity in Nigeria through their missionary efforts. The story comes full circle. St. Patrick once brought the faith to Ireland, and centuries later, Irish missionaries brought the faith to Africa. Today, Nigeria is one of the most vibrantly Catholic countries on the continent, sending priests throughout the world. A Nigerian priest friend once told me that one of the more popular alcoholic beverages in Nigeria is Guinness. The Irish monks clearly knew how to spread the faith. One last thing worth mentioning is how St. Patrick helped shape a distinctly Irish Catholic spirituality. He embraced the Celtic idea of thin places. These are locations where one encounters God more readily, whether in a prayerful church, in nature, or in the midst of family life. A Celtic saying goes that heaven and earth are always only 3 feet apart, except in thin places where the distance is even smaller and the divine becomes more tangible. Where is a thin place in your life? St. Patrick can help you find it. As we celebrate the great day of Irish culture and faith, we remember the saint who continues to inspire us and point the way to Christ. Allow me to conclude with the words from the beautiful Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rain fall soft upon your fields. May God hold you in the palm of his hands. A little green, a lot of grit. March Madness 2026 tips off with front runners, long shots, and local absences. March Madness arrives this year like a St. Patrick's Day parade, loud, unpredictable, and powered by equal parts tradition and illusion. By Selection Sunday on March 15th, the 68-team men's field will be locked in, and the annual promise will be renewed. 6 wins to immortality, 1 loss to heartbreak. For most of you reading this, you've already seen the complete bracket. For Western New York fans, the tournament brings both excitement and a familiar sting. National contenders charge forward, while local programs once again watch from the sidelines. At the top of the bracket, a clear group of frontrunners has emerged. Duke enters March as the most complete team in the country, pairing elite guard play with depth that holds up across neutral floors. Michigan and Arizona are close behind, each boasting strong resumes built on high-end wins and consistency through rugged conference schedules. University of Connecticut rounds out the leading pack, its championship pedigree and physical style making the Huskies a dangerous matchup regardless of seed line. None are invincible, but all will be expected to survive the first weekend without drama, which in March is never guaranteed. Closer to home, the picture is less festive. Find the next page. The Buffalo Bills nor the St. Bonaventure Bonnies will hear their names called on Selection Sunday. Buffalo showed flashes during the MAC season, but never found the consistency needed to make a late push. St. Bonaventure, once a March staple earlier in the decade, fell short in the Atlantic 10 race and will be left to wonder how narrow the margins have become in a league that no longer forgives extended slumps. Syracuse, still navigating its post-zone identity, also remains outside the field, marking another quiet March for Central and Western New York hoops. In fact, both Syracuse and St. Bonaventure will be looking for new coaches. The reality makes nearby Miami of Ohio one of the most intriguing stories on the bubble. The Red Hawks dominated much of the regular season and built a resume that has kept them firmly in the at-large discussion, even after a stumble in the MAC tournament. Their case rests on consistency, road wins, and the eye test of a team that looks organized and confident on both ends. Miami of Ohio may not carry national name recognition, but it has the profile of a first 4 team that could quickly become a bracket headache for a higher seed that overlooks it. Adding to the regional buzz, Buffalo's KeyBank Center will host first and second round games, bringing the tournament's energy directly to Western New York. Neutral sites rarely stay neutral for long, and visiting teams often struggle with unfamiliar rims and crowd dynamics. It's the kind of environment where favorites can tighten up and underdogs grow bolder, exactly the conditions that produce the moments fans remember long after the nets are cut. While the men's tournament dominates headlines, the women's bracket unfolds alongside it, with Selection Sunday revealing a field led by established powers and deeper parity than ever. The women's tournament begins March 18th, with the championship set for April 5th in Phoenix. The level of play and competitive balance continue to elevate it as one of the sport's premier events. There's something fitting about March Madness colliding with St. Patrick's Day. Both celebrate belief, sometimes irrational, often justified, that fortune can change in an instant. A tipped pass becomes a breakaway dunk. A missed free throw becomes a season's regret. The favorites arrive polished. The underdogs arrive fearless. And somewhere in between is the team that catches lightning. So as fans across Chautauqua County fill out brackets, remember this: March rewards courage more than caution. Pick a favorite, trust a hunch, maybe even believe in a team wearing green, because when the madness begins, luck alone won't win, but it always gets a vote. Around town, oops, I lost my page. I'll be reading activities around town, but since it's already the 20th, I'll start there. I won't back up to what's already been done. So Thursday, March 19th through Saturday the 21st, Bye Bye Birdie at 7 p.m. at Forestville High School. For information, go to forestville.com. Friday, March 20th, Wine on the Trail and Yard Smarts kickoff from 5:30 to 7 p.m., Casadega Lakes Nature Park. For information, go to chautauquawatershed.org. Friday, March 20th and Saturday, March 21st, The Music Man at 7:30 p.m. in Fredonia High School. For information, go to Fredonia at WNYRIC.org. The reason I'm reading so slowly is because the print is very little. Saturday, March 21st, Pancake and Waffle Breakfast. Meet the Easter Bunny, 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. at Falcon's Nest in Falconer. For information, Rotary7090.org. Life at the Met, Tristan and Isolde, 12 p.m., 1891 Fredonia Opera House Performing Arts Center. For info, FREDO, okay, it looks like fredopera.org. Skating Ever After, 1 p.m. and 6 p.m., Northwest Arena, Jamestown. For information, Jamestown Skating Club on Ice.com. The Magic of Motown, 7:30 p.m., Reglena Center for the Arts in Jamestown. For information, reglena.com. Friday, March 20th and Saturday, March 21st. Audubon Lights, 8 p.m., Audubon Communities Nature Center, Jamestown. For information, audubоncnc.org. Saturday, March 21st and Sunday, March 22nd. Spring Fling, 2 p.m., Lakeshore Center for the Arts, Westfield. For information, lakeshorecenterforthearts.com. New York State Maple Weekend, farm locations across New York State. For information, go to mapleweekend.com. March Monthly Camp, YMCA Camp Oniasha, DeWittville. For information, go to oniasha.org. And Sunday, March 22nd, 3 C's Catering, Maple Weekend Breakfast, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., Falcon's Nest in Falconer. For information, call them, 716-267-4403. Here's an editorial by Laurie Cornell, the publisher. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Why is it that St. Patrick's Day, a religious feast originating in Ireland, has become universally appealing to people of many other backgrounds and ethnicities? Is it because St. Patrick was such a laudable saint? Yes, but there were many standout saints that deserve honor and celebration. Is it because the officially green holiday gives us the perfect excuse to patronize our local Irish establishments like Coughlin's in Fredonia and Two Gingers in Jamestown? Yes, of course, but is it really the tinted beer and corned beef that make us feel so lucky? Maybe it's because St. Patrick's Day stands at the heart of our human nature and innate craving for happiness in the dead of winter. I'm no psychologist, but we've all had social circles and life circumstances that were downers, that drain on our time and patience. The foundational premise for Irish culture and the celebration of their signature holiday is fundamentally the opposite of this work. The Irish, as history tells it, overcame great obstacle, from the legendary potato famines in the motherland to oppression and poverty in the inner cities of early America, and stood tall with a smile on their face, fiddle in their hand, and gig in their step. As human beings, we crave happiness at our core and long to hang with happy people in happy times. That's the Irish. So whether your ancestors come from Ireland or not, St. Patrick's Day invites us all to celebrate happy and conjure up our best selves. And so this week, top of the morning to us all. Faith matters. Lenten Life Stories 2026. Come to the water and bring your ladle. And our featured writer is the Reverend Tara Eastman from the First Presbyterian Church of Warren. This week's Lenten Life Story focuses on the theme of community building with the help of a life story about a freshwater spring and the biblical account of the Samaritan woman from John 4. When I was a young child, I grew up next to a freshwater spring on Egypt Hollow Road in Russell, Pennsylvania. The freshwater spring ran along the side of the huge backyard, and a big metal ladle hung on a nail that my dad had driven into the trunk of a sturdy tree. With the support of the thick branches and ladle, fresh, freezing cold water was always within reach. The cold, clean water was always on the tap to quench our tag-playing thirst, filling and refilling my tea set, and was a ready source of refreshment to fill our dog's water dish on the back patio. We had a freshwater spring. We had a tree with strong branches. We had a metal ladle in reach. We had proximity and the ability to bend down, scoop out the water, and drink in the blessing of this living water whenever we had a need for it. But what if we hadn't had a ladle? What if there was no sturdy branch to hold on to? What if the freshwater spring dried up, or reroute it to the property up the road that was posted no trespassing? Without the living water close by, how would our neighbor and family be impacted? Our access to that freshwater spring was incredibly life-giving. It took care of our physical thirst and gave us a place in the community and helped our backyard become a communal gathering place of refreshment. That water source helped attend to physical needs and offered space for people to come together, build relationships, and become friends. That fresh spring was a source of water and life-giving community. In the account of the Samaritan woman at the well from John 4, verses 4 through 42, we encounter the power of community to be a source of isolation or life-giving connection. The woman goes to gather her daily jar of water in the heat of midday because she doesn't want to or can't go early in the morning with her neighbors. She is, by the way of her personal circumstances or the bias of her community, cut off and isolated. The text doesn't give us her full backstory, except to note she goes to the well alone, that she has had 5 husbands, and the man she is currently living with isn't her husband. The reason we learn anything about her comes from her conversation with Jesus as he waits at the well for the disciples to return with food. He sees the woman, asks her for a drink of water, and she is astounded. She is a Samaritan woman, and according to social norms, this Jewish man should not approach or speak to her. And yet, Jesus pushes against the norms of society. He stops, sees, and asks her for help. As they stood at the well, she had space to ask him essential questions about religion, address the conflict between the Samaritan and Jewish people, and share her personal life. Instead of being a constant reminder of her isolation from community, Jacob's Well becomes a gathering place for two very different people to begin talking and building finding the next page. And building a needed life-giving relationship. The account of the Samaritan woman and Jesus at the well is a timely example of how curiosity, compassion, and creativity cultivates new opportunities to build and experience life-giving community. Jesus' presence and actions at the well provided the woman, maybe for the first time in her life, space to be seen, heard, welcomed, and invited to use her gifts. With Jesus' invitation, she is empowered to have a meaningful role in the community and use her gifts of intellect and leadership to invite others into a life-giving community with God and each other. At the well, Jesus and the Samaritan woman give proximity and access for people to gather and fill their physical need for water, as well as spiritual thirst for forgiveness, grace, and hospitality. We all need a life-giving community where each person is seen, heard, and celebrated. The Samaritan woman's story reminds us God sees us, hears us, loves us, and calls us to use our gifts, ladles and buckets, to bring hope and healing into the world. Pride Prom. P-Flag Chautauqua and Over the Rainbow Celebration. P-Flag Chautauqua and Jamestown Pride are excited to announce Pride Prom Over the Rainbow, a celebration for LGBTQ plus and allied people to experience a night of camaraderie, dancing, food, and fashion. Hosted as a private event at Wicked Warren's in Jamestown on March 28th from 6 to 10 p.m. This first area Pride Prom will be a safe, inclusive environment for people to dress in what makes them feel fabulous, to dance and celebrate the evening in style. Rob Roth, president of Wicked Warren's, affirms, we're proud to support Jamestown Pride and P-Flag because strong communities are built on respect, kindness, and the freedom for people to be themselves. Events like Pride Prom and Pride Week bring people together in a positive, welcoming way, and we're honored to play a small part in celebrating the diversity that makes our region special. The evening will begin with door prizes generously donated by local businesses, and the event will be hosted by Masters of Ceremonies DJ Paul Clement from the Diamond Run Radio and Lennox WT Moonlight Revival. A special royal drag court will feature entertainers Sabrina White from the Knights of Enchanted Dreams and Just in Time from Showtime Productions to warm up the dance floor. Local businesses sponsoring Pride Prom will be acknowledged during the evening as well. We at Jamestown Pride are thrilled to finally offer a larger event in addition to our annual Fun June Festival, says Karen Hughes-Suber, events coordinator for Jamestown Pride. Our partnership with P-Flag this year has helped us organize events that enrich the queer community when visibility and representation are much needed. P-Flag co-president Joe Hyatt adds, fueled by love and dressed in our best, we are gathering in celebration unapologetically being our authentic selves. In this current climate, It is an act of bravery. Attending Pride Prom will help raise funds to support both LGBTQ plus organizations, PFLAG Chautauqua, which supports, educates, and advocates for LGBTQ plus people and those who love them, and Jamestown Pride, whose mission is to create events celebrating the queer community so people feel good about who they are. The event is available to prom goers ages 18 plus, and food and beverages will be available for sale. Pre-sale tickets for $20 are available on Eventbrite at www.eventbrite.com/e/Pride Prom tickets. Tickets can also be purchased the day of the prom for $25 at the door. Come enjoy the prom you wish you had. Formal is option and fabulous is a must. Sweet steps to making maple syrup. Breakfast foods like pancakes or French toast just aren't the same without delicious maple syrup. Not all syrups in the grocery aisle are the same. In fact, some do not contain any maple at all. Pure maple syrup is a marvel of nature and involves a multi-step process of getting this rich liquid from tree to table. Sugar maples and sugar bushes. Sugar maple trees are the species responsible for producing the maple syrup consumers know and love. Alternative maple trees can be used, but industry experts say sugar maples produce the most flavorful syrups. According to the Massachusetts Maple Producers Association, maple syrup starts off as tree sap. Sugar makers, as maple syrup producers are called, rely on a cultivated group of maple trees that they use for syrup, known as a sugar bush or maple orchard. This is where the syrup-making process begins. From tree sap to syrup. Maple sap is mostly crystal clear water that is roughly 2% sugar. Sugar makers visit the sugar bush in late winter, early spring for a sugaring season that lasts 4 to 6 weeks. The state of Vermont pure maple syrup says a pattern of freezing and thawing temperatures with below freezing temperatures at night followed by 40 to 45 Fahrenheit temperatures during the day produces the requisite pressure within a tree to enable sap to flow when trees are tapped. It takes around 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. Each sugar maple produces about 4 cups of syrup per tree, so sugar makers must gather as much sap as possible. The process begins with drilling a tap hole into each sugar maple tree. Then, spouts are inserted into the holes to direct the sap into buckets or tubes that will deliver the sap to a collection tank at a sugar house or another collection area. According to Fort Rose Farm, a maple syrup farm in Canada, the sap is then placed into a reverse osmosis machine. It delivers pressure to pump the sap through a membrane to extract the sugar from the water and the sap. The sap then travels to an evaporator to boil off more water. As the water is removed, the product becomes thicker and more like syrup. The syrup is ready to draw off at 219 degrees Fahrenheit, but it still needs to be filtered and potentially adjusted for density. It is then grated for flavor and color. Bascom, a maple syrup producer, says maple syrup made early in the season tends to be clear and have a delicate taste. As the season progresses, the syrup becomes darker and stronger in taste. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 18th, I think, issue of the Chautauqua Gazette. We read from the Chautauqua Gazette on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Linda Lover. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Radio reading serves people who are blind or have a print disability throughout Western New York and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. From its broadcast studios at 1199 Harlem Road in Cheektowaga, just north of Clinton Street. Almost 40 years and more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those unable to read printed matter on their own. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Volunteer radio readers broadcast daily readings of newspapers, magazines, and books. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call us at 716-821-5555. Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, and questions you may have